In this special episode of Live Here on Panhandle PBS, a candidates forum highlighting the race for mayor and city council places 1 through 4.
Welcome to our candidates forum. This program is coming to you from the studios of Panhandle PBS on the Washington Street campus of Amarillo College. I'm Jacob Workman and I'll be your moderator. Fellow journalists from the Amarillo community are joining us in the studio, along with the 5 candidates for Amarillo City Council member place number 4. Frank White, Mark Nair, Walter Wolfram, Steve Rogers, and Dale Potter. They're seated in the order they appear on the ballot. Now let's go over the rules. Each candidate will be given 1 minute for an opening statement and 1 minute to answer each question. Please keep in mind that this is a forum and not a debate. There will not be time for rebuttal. Stay connected with us on Twitter by using the hashtag LiveHerePBS. We'll begin with opening statements from the candidates. Into that camera, Frank White.
Yes, I'm Frank White. I'm running for place 4 on the City Council of Amarillo. I'm running because of love for the city. I love Amarillo, and I want to on trust and integrity. I was asked to run by some friends at church, and I thought about it, and I said, why not? Because time is right and everything's right. I have the time, and I'm dedicated to trying to be a good city council member if I'm elected. And I want to help with the development of downtown and to make all citizens of Amarillo feel like they have a voice and they're included in, if I'm in the decision making, if possible. If it's possible, I would, like to have open meetings and things, in which we have open meetings. I would like to have it where we could have a voice, a vote, if it's possible, for some big issue to come up.
Thank you, Mr. White. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mark Nair.
Hi, my name is Mark Nair. I've lived in Amarillo for 22 years with my wife. We've raised our 3 kids here, and I love living here. Amarillo is a gem, and the way to polish that gem is the things that we have to do in the city. And by that I mean transparency, accountability, and accessibility. Quality of life isn't just about downtown, it's about our entire community. And these are the things that I want to strive for, especially in dealing with transparency and how we can open our meetings. But not only that, have our budget accessible to anybody who wants to understand it. I want to implement an open source piece of software that's free to the taxpayer, where we can look at all of our budget numbers very easily and understand all the decisions that the city council's made, all the decisions that are implemented in the city. This is a great place to live, and I want to make it better. Thank you.
Walter Wolfram.
I'm Walter Wolfram. I'm born and raised here, as my mother was before me. My grandfather and his partner owned the first drugstore down on the Bowery, and if you know where that is, you're older than I am. I'm running because I love my city. I think I have practiced law here for many, many years, all of my professional career here. I believe I know how government functions and what we want to do. I have a proposed contract with Amarillo, 7 items that I will pursue if I'm elected, and they will be posted to Facebook before this week is out. Just look under Walter Wolfram election campaign and you'll take a look at those. Thank you.
Steve Rogers.
Thank you. Steve Rogers. Judy and I moved here 34 years ago. Didn't know a person. Opened up in business, and the city embraced us and honored us and allowed us to make a living and raise our boys. And now's the time for us to return that gift of good fortune and confidence that the city has blessed us with over this time. I believe that we need to take care of our public safety and health officials. I think we need to make this a business-friendly community so that people want to come here and do business. And I think we need to do whatever we need to continue to expand economic opportunities for everyone. And I think that because of my professional and service experience over the 34 years I've lived here, that I can do the job and would ask for your vote May the 9th.
Dale Potter.
I'm Dale Potter. I graduated from Caprock High School in 2006. After that, I enlisted in the United States Army. During my time there, I was put in lots of leadership roles, and I think that's what is required and what is needed is a true leader for our city. At the age of 22, I started managing multi-million-dollar operations while in the military. Now being out, we moved back home. Me and my wife, we have a 2-year-old son. I'm a member of the Wounded Warrior Alumni Program, the VFW Post 430, and I think it's time that Emerald has a true leader that steps up and will have transparency in all their actions. Some say there is. I've seen some AEDC paperwork, and I've seen some released documents from the CIA, and I'll tell you I can read the CIA documents more clear than the AEDC paperwork. So I want citizens to have information that they've paid for. That is their information. That's their money that's paying for it, and they deserve to look at it. Thank you.
Now we'll take our first question from Jay Ritchie of AGN TV to Mr. White.
Jacob, thank you. Candidates, welcome. Downtown, of course, has been in the news a lot in recent months in both positive and negative ways. We've got the new hotel, parking garage, the new multi-event center, and then there's that mess with Wallace Bajali. Let us know what you like about what's happening downtown. And in the first day of the new council's term, what would you change about what's going on downtown? And should Amarillo voters have their say on any future downtown plans?
Yes, I would say I like the way it's coming on for us, the hotels. I think we need hotels and more restaurants and stuff downtown. I didn't like the baseball park because I was, think we should put the money into the old one and build an event center or something like that. But I'm thinking, I don't know whether it's a done deal or not. But because I've been to some beautiful downtowns like Indianapolis, and it's great when you got shopping and walking around in restaurants and stuff in downtown. So I like that part, when you have big issues coming up like downtown, I think the citizens and taxpayers should have a voice, and in deciding whether they want to put their money into a ballpark or something like that. I think taxpayers should be able to vote on it. That's what I would, if I had a vote, that's what I would do. In the first,
Go ahead, Mr. Nair.
The first, okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Thanks, Jay. Downtown, to be vibrant downtown, there are a lot of plans in place. Vibrancy is walkability. Vibrancy is recruiting new businesses to be out down there, to give families a place to go. I don't necessarily agree with the plan that we've implemented so far as the catalyst project for that. I can find no economist that will agree with the economic value of having the stadium, but that said, on day one, to answer your question, the very first thing I'd like to do is evaluate all the arrangements and all the agreements. I don't know where we are with things. If we are on the road to building this whole catalyst project, the stadium, the parking garage, the best thing we can do is make sure that it has a serious business model behind it. I can't tell you what that business model is today, but if we are on that road, I'll make sure that we have one that's serious so that we can't afford to have it fail if we can't stop it. So that said, the rest of downtown is extremely important too, as well as the rest of the community for quality of life.
If you're going to have a great city, you're going to have a great downtown. That's generally accepted, and I accept that also. I've asked the commission to put on referendum ballot whether we should build a baseball park. $30 million for a baseball park that is so small that if we get a AA team, you can't play there. If it's for a multi-use event center and baseball can't be played there, why don't we have a Hollywood Bowl that would cost less than $10 million? And you'd have real multi-event center there. Why don't we have a Cinema 10 down there? Go look at the people that go to the cinema at night. Why don't we have a legitimate theater downtown in addition to the Globe News Performance Center? The criticism that I don't need to get into at this point, criticism about decisions in the past and the way the money has been inadvertently done. Of course, I want to take the Potter County Railroad Museum and put it in the train station.
Thank you, Mr. Wolfram. Thank you. Mr. Rogers.
Yes, thank you, Jay. What I like about downtown is we've had a number of multi-million-dollar private investments downtown already. Case in point, Toot and Totem, renovation of the Paramount building, renovation of the Greyhound station, Happy Bank, all those things were attracted downtown without financial incentives. They were attracted downtown, and in large part, I think the overall planning that's gone on downtown is responsible for that. What I would dislike is, of course, what everybody dislikes, the hiring of Wallace and Bajali. And so that bell has been rung. We can't take anything. And what I would say in terms of changes is we've got 4 projects under development. We need to make absolutely certain that they come in on time, on budget, are leased to the highest standard possible,
Thank you,
and
Mr.
maintained.
Rogers. Thank you. Mr. Potter.
First off, one thing I do commend the current city council on is the fact that they're trying to do something. It's easy to just avoid problems, and they've looked at it and they want a strategy. But what I don't like is the fact that they didn't get any input. Some people say it's too late. I'm not a fan of it's too late. Quick story, one year I bought my wife a China hutch. She said, I don't like it, return it. I said, they don't have a return policy, so you can't return it. Guess what? They took it back the same day. So there is always something you can work out with somebody. My first day would be to talk with apparently who we've already signed contracts with for this baseball stadium and see if it is too late. In 2013, our population in Amarillo was 196,429. On average, attendance for a baseball game was 2,351. That means this $30 million stadium is being built for approximately 1.19% of our population. To me, that is not an event center for everyone, and it's not fair for all the taxpayers.
Kelly James from Fox 14, you have the next question for Mr. Nair.
All right. Again, thank you for inviting us out. Since we're talking about getting the public's input, notoriously Amarillo is bad when it comes to municipal elections, when it comes to voter turnout. A few years ago, there was this effort to get single-member districts, which the proponents of that thought that would help with the getting more people out. It was on the ballot. There was some confusion. My question here is, would you be willing to revisit that issue, do something to make sure that more people get the chance to vote instead of a very small percentage? And I think it's fairly right to say that a very small percentage of people are going to elect one of you to that seat.
Thanks, Kelly. You're right. This is a problem that's just not a problem focused on Amarillo. It's all over the place. This is the issue about participatory democracy. What I would like to do is take a chunk of the budget, have different neighborhoods talk amongst themselves and say, this budget is dedicated to the things that you in those neighborhoods put in a hierarchy and a list of importance. So that money goes directly to those projects. That gets those people involved in both the budget process, the election process, and they understand that their participation creates that essence of democracy. This is what we all want. Democracy isn't made by 6% of the voting population. It's not made by 12%, but it is made by people who see that they can make a change. Now, if your question is about do we want to revisit single-member districts, I am more than happy to revisit that as a topic. We know that will be on the ballot for the public vote. This happened twice before.
The single-member district will not be allowed under the Texas Constitution if you retain 2-year terms. If you want to have those and go to the ward system with 4 sets and then 4 at large and the mayor, fine, except they're going to have to go to the 4-year term. Just check the Constitution. I would support raising the number of commissioners to 6 or 8, just so that you have a broader base of representation rather than concentration of the power into 4 hands. I think that that's, at the size of our city, it was 4 when it was 75,000 people, and we now have 200,000 people. I think 6 to 8 would be a better fit for us.
Well, I would say, first of all, thanks, Kelly. Voter turnout seems to me to represent something of a lack of confidence in either the system or the list of candidates or something like that. So it would seem to me like that it makes some sense that if the sitting commission and the candidates for commission would try to be a bit more available, would try to be a bit more in the public eye, so that people could feel a better connection, that would carry the day in terms of turnout. And then I would defer to our legal counsel, Mr. Wolfram, for the single-member district answer.
I think that any issue can be revisited as the city grows. There could be new issues that come up that at a time weren't important or not most important, but now can be. At the same time, I feel that transparency kind of does play into how many people are voting. If I was to tell people in Amarillo on our ballot is the MPEV, people aren't going to have a clue what that is. If I put on their downtown baseball park, everyone knows what that is. So when we use two different terms at two different times, it seems to confuse people at times. And when they're voting, they could be confused as exactly what am I voting on. And having that transparency there can bring in more active voters because people may feel very strongly about a certain topic and they want to ensure that their vote does count for that. And at times, I mean, just flat out, there is people who sometimes say, you know what, my vote, either way I'm happy, so I don't need to go.
Yes, I think because the reason we have a low turnout a lot of times because some people just so frustrated and they gave up, they feel like they're not even included in the city. Their voice don't count because if they live in a certain place, they feel like it's just going to be the status quo. Things the same, they're not going to have representation, and so they don't vote. It just it don't make sense, but that's the way people feel. They don't want to go vote because they feel, well, my vote ain't going to do any good. You know, if you're a small minority, and I guess history have proven in Amarillo because I don't think I know I've been in 40-some years. I don't think there's ever been a black city commissioner, in Amarillo. But that's history. Everything changes. Time could change, and so I'm running. Hopefully I could be one of the first ones. And on the
thank you, Mr. White. Thank you.
Okay.
Mike Hill from KGNC, you have the next question to Mr. Wolfram.
Excuse me. Several businesses have closed or had layoffs over the past few years here in Amarillo. What's your plan for the economic future of the city?
The AEDC needs to develop and expose itself to the public, declare to the public what its actual plans are for the development in an orderly fashion. It seems to me they have an ad hoc approach to things. They spend an awful lot of money on things that are not creating a lot of jobs. And that really concerns me. They can have failures and that's all right, but I think a better organization of the AEDC thrust and a plan from them would be where I would start first for the government's intervention in this area.
Thank you, sir. I would say that the first order of business is that we make it easier and friendlier to do business here in the city. We shouldn't be city government, city organizations, shouldn't be an impediment to activities down at City Hall should not be adversarial. Everyone that goes into City Hall should be treated as a customer. And by doing that, we will be the friendliest, happiest place to do business, and that in itself will do a tremendous job for us in economic development. Thank you.
One area I would personally like to see grow, I think it's an asset that our city has and has had for many years, it seems to kind of be avoided, is the size of our runway here in Amarillo. It's the 7th largest in the nation. And we have one major aviation company here. I'd like to see another one brought here. I think there can be a lot of incentives to bring more here. It can make up for downfalls when there is downfalls in other companies, so people have somewhere else to go besides leaving Amarillo. At the same time, I think it's more than just bringing businesses here, it's keeping businesses here. Anybody can go start a business, but to keep that business here for years and years takes hard work, dedication, and they need to work hand in hand with our city government. The city government doesn't sit around and tell people what to do. We need to work hand in hand with our residents and work with them, not just for them.
Yes, I agree that we should be more business friendly. Sometimes I think we put money into certain things like airline at the airport. We need more choice on the airline. You know, I think we gave incentive to the one airline, and so we losing airlines, you know, flights out of Amarillo because of, you know, I guess we need to give. I think we should bring, like you said, another major airline in and give them an incentive to come in, and then like some places that we gave incentive, Bell has had good jobs, but Bell always lay off, and you know, we gave them lots of money from the AEDC. We gave them lots of money and land and tax breaks, but they always lay off.
Thanks, Mike. So here we are with some great institutions that we can take advantage of to build economic base that we sort of had, but not really. We have WT in Canyon. We have AC here in Amarillo. And Amarillo College is one of the best the community colleges I've ever seen. We tie that with the new growth in economics as far as the world is concerned, which is technology. With technology, the cost of living in the valley outside of San Francisco is extraordinarily high. The cost of living in Amarillo, pretty good. If you look at what other towns in the Midwest have done, let's like Des Moines, for example, they put a real focus on technological adaptation and technological growth, especially when it comes to talent and recruiting that talent. We can do the exact same thing. And all we have to do is say, we want to make a focus here. We're building new businesses, acquisition of other businesses, things that I know quite a bit about. We can build a technological structure, and that could be an economic growth for the future that drives many, many other things.
Larry Lemons from ABC 7, you have the next question for Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Rogers, since many of you have been talking about transparency, I'd like to get into that a little bit more specifically. And none of you are incumbents, so that's a really good thing for this question. None of you did anything wrong, as far as I can tell. The relationship between the City Council and the AEDC has become problematic in terms of transparency. What would you do as a City Council member in terms of holding the AEDC accountable for not only what you do, but the things they have to do necessarily in private as well?
Thank you, sir. It's interesting. If you read the AEDC's mission statement, it's to expand the economy in the Amarillo area and make it more diverse. And so that by its very nature creates a risky business model. Those fellows are asked to go out into the marketplace and do research and find out about businesses and then make decisions about what it might take to bring those companies in here. So what I would suggest is that there be a greater level of interaction between the council and the AEDC's management, because there's a lot of talent around town that can be tapped so that more information can be made available so that we can help the AEDC make those risky decisions.
I believe that the AEDC really needs to have even a weekly briefing, in a sense, to the City Council, and so they can stay on the same page. Everyone should need to see everything about it. It's taxpayers. I've worked hard for that money and I pay it in taxes, and I didn't have a choice. I paid my taxes. So did everyone else here. And when you pay that money, it's not just digits. It's easy to see a budget and all you see is numbers. But those numbers represent hard work behind those people, and it needs to work just as hard when it's used to acquire assets for them. A lot of times it seems that that's forgotten, and when you can do a check and balance kind of a system between the council and the AEDC and ensuring that both are doing what they should, it's going to work out well for everyone. At the same time, if you look at the AEDC website, one thing it mentions on there is some hot jobs in Amarillo, and it does show Bell Helicopter, but that doesn't seem to be the case recently, so they need to make sure they stay on top of their information just as much as everyone else.
Yes. I think that the AEDC should be held more accountable, and I'm trying to figure out how long do people get to stay on the AEDC? You know, how do they get on there and how long they get to stay on there? And I think the council should, you know, I don't know how they work together, but I think they should let the council know if they're going to have to vote on it, you know, some of the ins and outs of what's going on when they're making all these deals. But like I said, but I was always wondering how they got on there and how long they get to stay on there. Is it a lifetime job like a judge at the Supreme Court or something? That's all I got to say.
All right, thanks, Larry. First, change AEDC from a Type A to a Type B. Type A's invest in industry. Type B's have more flexibility in what they can invest in, especially infrastructure. Change the meetings so they're more open. Right now, the AEDC meetings are awful. If you look at the agenda, you can't tell what's happening. That's shrouded underneath the whole concept of we need secrecy so we can negotiate. Well, the fact is, this is taxpayer money, and that's the primary thing. It's not about negotiations between people. It's using our money the right way. So we need to open those meetings up a little more than they have been in the past. There are 2 bills now pending, one in the Senate and one in the Texas House, that are actually focused on this very thing. I embrace that completely. We have to know what's going on. The economic development corporations in Texas have had a history of hiding in the shadows, and they were designed that way to avoid the Texas Open Meetings Act, and we have to stop that completely. I'm tired of hearing that we are doing the minimal accepted legal requirement. I don't want to hear those words anymore in Amarillo.
Thank you, Mr. Nair.
The AEDC has been very generous with taxpayers' money recently, and you examine what they're doing, and they're not careful about how they spend the taxpayers' money. And the City Commission has been neglectful in oversight and allowed that to happen, and we've created a serious problem downtown. And I think that the AEDC needs to grow up and examine what they do and be careful with the taxpayers' money. And I think the City Commission needs to ride herd over them more carefully, that we don't waste the money. We're wasting, in the last 12 months, millions of dollars.
Jackie Kingston with NBC4, you have the next question to Mr. Potter.
Mr. Potter, I'd like to expound on something that we have already mentioned in this forum this evening. The Wright Amendment expired last year. I would like to specifically ask what your plan is for transportation in Amarillo, whether it's Ports to Plains or Amtrak. What specifically would you do to encourage transportation in our city?
Thank you. There's lots of ways for transportation that I would like to see expanded. One, as I've kind of voiced before, was aviation in Amarillo. Aviation is a huge asset. It's changing all over the world. It can transport people quickly. Recently, Amtrak was looking at coming here, and well, they said no thanks. And so I think it's going to be tough to try and get them back here again. Greyhound's been here, and they've been here a long time, and I could see that as another route for people to come. But first off, we need to get our roads built correctly, which seems to be a difficult task for some reason. And I think once we get that structure down, we can get possibly other bus companies coming through, more buses coming through, and that's going to help a lot for transportation. And we do have a new airport, but it is still fairly small, and it's harder to get larger aircraft here. So it's tough to say, but possibly another improvement to the airport to encourage larger aircraft to come here.
Mr. White.
Yes, I would love to see Amtrak. I think we should give, if I was on the council, definitely go after them and offer incentive to try to get Amtrak, because we need some real trains coming through Amarillo like it used to be. We need that. That would really help Amarillo grow and help the city bus people. I had people talk to me about even the bus lines, the way they travel, they go all the way around, and a lot of people wish they had another bus that would meet them so they don't have to ride all the way around the bus to get to one place and wait till it come to get back to the destination, because I think they should make the city buses more efficient and have more buses running, because a lot of people ride the bus still.
Great. Well, thanks, Jackie. So the problem is really not the Wright Amendment. I mean, the Wright Amendment just shows the marketplace in action after it's gone. So what we have to focus on is not, I would love to have Amtrak. I would love to have all sorts of stuff. It'd be great. But the fact is, the thing that we can do is build a great economic base here, and an economic base of professional workers that will demand these services. Southwest, they're just making a business decision. And for us, it's a crummy business decision, but they are. So the way to counter that is to say we have dynamic growth. We are on the way to the future. This is what's happening in our city. Take a look at it. I have no problem talking to those guys about it, but we have to talk in those terms and not in terms of saying, we'll give you a little scratch on the back end if you come back, please, please. And not begging them, but showing them that we are dynamic and we are growing and we are unique, and that's what we have to do.
When you look at the map of interstate highway systems in the United States, you see Amarillo is situated very, very well. We're at the crossroads of I-40, which is the largest interstate highway use system, and Highway 27. Do you realize you don't drive through Lubbock, you drive to Lubbock? If we could get I-27 to Laredo and hook it up at Raton with I-25, then you'd have the transportation that you have here. You're not going to get Amtrak, but you can develop a road system that will make business generate here. Can you imagine what would happen here if we had a direct access I-27 all the way to Laredo and hooked up to Denver, Colorado?
Oh, thank you, Jackie. I would say that transportation of all sorts should be an important part of our community. We have the interstate highway system through here. We have a good airport system. We've had a hard time with passenger loads. Therefore, the aircraft carriers, the airlines won't stay. They cut their flights, that sort of thing. So I would say that in agreement with the rest of the fellows, the better the city is, the more vibrant the economy is, the more jobs that are available here, those economics will dictate that those airlines come to Amarillo and stay and flourish.
We've got time for one more question. Candidates, if you'll please keep your responses to around 30 seconds on this last one. David Ortega from the CW, you have the next question to Mr. White.
Mr. White, if elected, would you replace key figures at City Hall, such as the city manager and the city lawyer?
No, right now, I wouldn't, because I don't know enough about it to just say I would do this. No, it would have to be some grounds of reason. I wouldn't just, no, not flat out, just go in. So that's
Thanks, David. 30 seconds. What a question. I don't want to say they're fired, but I do want to say we have had no accountability. So day one, we bring everyone in and say, let's talk about the things that have happened. Let's talk about the logo. Let's talk about animal control. Let's talk about several of these issues. What has happened and why has nobody held accountable for these things? That's the critical question, and that will lead me to the real answer.
No, I would not fire them. But let me point out something. When the city spent $2.6 million to buy the railroad property where the railroad station is, do you realize they did no due diligence? None. Did not realize they're going to spend another $1.4 million to fix it before they use it. Somebody needs to wake up and start just handling general business decisions down there, and it's the city commission's obligation to see to it that its staff wakes up and supports their efforts.
Thank you, Mr. Wolfram. Thank you. Mr. Rogers.
Thank you. As a general statement, making somebody better is better than running them off. And so I would think that we have an opportunity. If there are weaknesses, let's address those and make them stronger. And obviously, if the time comes, you can't do it, somebody has to go, then they have to go. But I don't think that's the first, house cleaning is the first order of business.
I'm a firm believer in second chances. I think everybody in life deserves a second chance. At the same time, I think we should all give our best, especially when you're at work. I would like to look at not just them, but every city worker and every city department and say, you're going to meet state requirements. We're going to exceed state requirements. We're going to be better than what they want us to be. And if you're not, you can't do that, well, I'm sorry, but go look elsewhere and maybe you can fit in somewhere else. But right now, we need to be better than they want us to be.
Thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you.